Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Now I want to try a really simple design. This design has been done many times over. There's lots of videos on it, but I wanted to give it a go because I don't think I have given it a go before, and I have a couple of helpers that are on my knee during this video and they have helped me throughout the process. So this was something that my daughter could craft alongside me. Hers is off screen and creating. Now, first of all, to make life really simple, I have got a couple of paper pads here. One is the Playful paper pad and one is the Peppermint paper pad. And if you think that choosing colours that would go together is not your thing, then choose a paper pad and you're pretty much guaranteed that this is going to work. That is one of my top tips. It takes the thinking out of it and it just makes life a little bit easier. I'm going to go with the Peppermint one today and just take out one piece of each of the colours that I think I'm going to use. There's actually a couple in here that I don't think I'll use, not the really dark black, and then I end up not even using another colour as well, but that's okay. So I just take out the ones that I think I'm going to need. And there are also a couple of ways that you can create this card today. I'm going to show you my favorite way and I'll tell you why it's my favorite. However, there is one that is very similar but definitely probably takes half the amount of paper to create. So either is going to work though. I'm going to leave out a couple of the colors in this paper pad. As I said, that really dark blue, I didn't feel like I wanted that one in, but other than that, I think I have about 5 or 6 colors here that I've chosen, and all I'm going to do is run these through and get 1 inch thick strips. You can use any width at all, but 1 inch thick for me just makes life a little bit easier. And I'm cutting, I think 3 or 4 at a time. And this is reasonably thick card, so I'm having to go back and forth a couple of times. This time was only, I think, 2, which just slices through perfectly easy. And then I just arrange my strips so that it's easiest to grab them. Then I want to show you the way that I attach these on, because obviously there's always lots of ways to do this. And as per usual, this is just my way that I like to share. I'm using the scrapbook.com double-sided adhesive sheets today. I have these cut down to card front sizes, but I keep all my scraps of this. Absolutely everything, because I can end up using these all the time. So what I do to line this up, given that the double-sided adhesive is nearly the same size as my piece of copy paper here that I'm adhering this down to. So you saw I just took that tiny little corner and then I pulled back the release paper, then I line up the sheet with the copy paper, and then I just slowly peel from that one corner. So here it is again. I peel that one little corner, then I line up the other 3/4 of the adhesive sheet here, and then finally push down in that adhesive corner, and then generally pull it down, and it's going to be pretty well lined up. For whatever reason, the release paper came off differently in this, so one is brown and one is the scrapbook.com. Doesn't matter, makes no difference. Now I find just bringing in a little grid mat here is going to help me just so that I can line up the very first strip, and then from there I know that things are going to be relatively straight. If you want to make life easier when you are adding strips, maybe not for this card in particular, but for lots of other cards that involve strips and scraps and things, then add them on a diagonal, and that means it kind of takes away that glaring obviousness if you don't quite get them perfectly straight. I find it much easier to hide if you are putting them on a diagonal rather than straight across like this. Now I came to the very end here and I was meant to put red, but red just didn't feel right. So it felt like it stuck out a little bit much to go right at the bottom there. So I actually went back to using pink again, which is neither here nor there. It works out just fine. Now if you find there's a little too much sticky that has been exposed, then just add it back on again, and just so that you kind of have somewhere to hold on to. Again, lining up that very first strip so that it is relatively even, and then I can work my way down from here, popping down these strips. You can, of course, absolutely use some liquid glue or some double-sided tape. Either, just whatever you have in your stash is going to work out. I quite like these sheets because I know that everything is going to be adhered and stuck down really with good coverage. Now here I'm taking my paper trimmer, and I have sped this up a little bit, but I'm going to kind of take off all the excess edges. I will keep all of these, but the key that I want here is to make sure that I cut out exactly the same thing for both. Now I could have like traced around this and drawn around it with a pencil and just kind of got the right bit there, but because I am stubborn, I was just going to create this and just kind of cut away at the edges by just holding the first piece there. So then I have 2 identical sheets that are covered in the same scraps. Now these stamps here, this is where you can use pretty much what you have. This first one that I'm showing you is Scented Blooms, then this one here is the Passion Flower, then the 5 Daisies, and then the last one here is Floral Wonder. These are just the best stamps. I don't even know how many videos on these because these are so good. They're really large, bold stamps, and they have such a low price point for being how big they are. They stamp absolutely beautifully, and there are so many techniques that you can do with these. These are the best value stamps, and I have a whole range of them that I have used absolutely endlessly. Now here I'm just showing you, this kind of shows me, I play around like this. I put the packaging to the stamp down on a piece so you can see it nice and clearly, and I play around with kind of what angles I can get, or what would it look like if I kind of just had this bit on a card, and it just gives me a really good idea of what I might want to pop down onto my stamp for that day, like onto my image that day. So I have popped this in my stamping platform. I'm sorry I'm so zoomed in, I'll zoom out in just a minute. And today I've gone with the Scented Blooms stamp set, and I have popped this down on my platform, and this has the sticky grids, the Sizzix sticky grid sheets. That's what's holding this in here. So I don't use magnets anymore in my stamping platforms because this is just enough tack that it holds onto my cards or whatever image I am stamping onto. Then I'm going to use some Versamark ink and stamp this down, this part of my flower, just kind of hanging off the edge of the first sheet that we have popped down. With these sticky grid sheets, I do have a video of how I pop these into my stamping platform. I'll see if I can find it. It's probably a few videos back now. I know that people also use the cutting mats as well. Anything that has that low tack surface is going to be really good, and I find it really much easier than using the magnets. And these sticky grid sheets come in a pack of 5, and they have lasted me a really long time. So I'm really, I think these are a good use of this product. Now I've got some white embossing powder here. This is the super fine embossing powder, and I'm just going to pop that on, and I get a really nice crisp clean image there. Pop my embossing powder back, and then I am going to melt this. Now this was at the point where I was kind of deciding how I wanted the sentiment to go on for this one. At this point, the world is kind of your oyster when it comes to where you'd like to pop a sentiment, or even if you would like to pop one on at all. But I was just thinking about this before I started cutting. Now I'm going to take my little cutter bee scissors and fussy cut around that image that we have stamped onto here. Now I am going to leave a little border. I like that look. It makes fussy cutting a lot easier in my opinion. So I liked the look here because it was on coloured cardstock. So I have cut right up next to that image. Then I have the Pink and Main Spotlight sayings, and this is where I was kind of deciding whether I wanted one of the coloured strips to kind of follow through and would be popped up and have the sentiment best wishes on it as well. I wasn't sure if I wanted it just down on the cardstock, or whether I wanted it to be popped up, or whether I wanted it to be on a separate little piece of the same coloured cardstock. I just wasn't sure at this point. So again, I'm going to pop this back in my stamping platform, and I decided to do it on that kind of turquoisey blue, the darker blue one. I'm going to stamp it in exactly the same so that we don't introduce any new colours at this point. I had a spare strip of that same cardstock, so I decided I would stamp it on there because then I didn't have to make a decision right away. I could see what I thought looked best before I went with my decision. And I stamped it down on my card, on my other card front, because I knew I would be covering it up if I went with my other decision. So I still at this point had both options available. And my daughter was really happy to use the other option. I always ask her if she wants her cards to be shown here at the end. I know that she often gets them requested to be shown. Sometimes she is like, yes mum, that sounds great, and then other times she says, no, I'm okay. And so I just respect her wishes if she doesn't want to be on here. But my son, who had done a really good job at this point, he wanted to get his hands into the mix, and so he just wanted to help out with the sentiment. He's going to hold it down for me. This is about the part when they see mum's project and they want more to do with mum's project than their own project. So he was itching to help out. He's going to help me doing all the pressing and things. And then when it came to putting all the adhesives down in the foam tape, he was more than keen to help out. So I cut some pieces for him, and he's going to stick them on the back where he thinks they should go. Now I am just popping this up on some foam tape. I've gone right around the outside, and he's going to fill in the inside here. At the minute, my son is 3 years old, so he absolutely loves helping out, and then he's doing a really good job of picking off all of those release pieces for me And then once I have my image, I'm going to place this exactly in the same place as my original strip, so it looks kind of carried on. Now you could just use both options of your fussy cut piece, so you could use the left and the right hand piece, but I think it just makes it much easier for me, and I like that continuity that underneath, if you look from the side, you can still see the same color. So that's my preference. But there are always many different ways to create a similar designed card, so I hope that you have enjoyed seeing my version today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, bye!